Hello and welcome to BYJU'S IAS. Let's get started with the analysis of today's The Hindu newspaper, beginning with a news item on page number 12 of the Delhi edition of The Hindu, relevant for GS Paper 2. Shivraj Singh Chouhan has been sworn in as the Chief Minister of Madhya Pradesh for the fourth term. Now let's link this newspaper article to anti-defection law and point out another loophole in the law. In 1985, when the constitution was amended, when 10th schedule was added to the Constitution of India, what was the objective of anti-defection law? The objective was, let's prevent defections. Members of the parliament, members of the state legislators, they switch their parties from one party to another, and it leads to instability in the polity. So to prevent defections in Indian politics and to ensure that there is stability in the government, that was the objective why anti-defection law was enacted by the Indian Parliament. Now another loophole has been invented by the political parties, and that is resignations. How? Let's look at this newspaper article and link it with anti-defection law. In 2018, elections were held in Madhya Pradesh. Total 230 seats in Madhya Pradesh Legislative Assembly. Once the results were declared, Congress bagged 114. The BJP was in a position to bag 109. BSP with 2 seats. Samajwadi Party with 1 seat. And independents were in a position to bag 4 seats. What is the majority required? 116. Any party with 116 MLAs will be in a position to form the government. The Congress was 2 MLAs short. This is where BSP, Samajwadi Party and some independents, they supported the Congress, and Congress was in a position to form the government. Now if any legislator of the Congress would resign from the party, what will happen to this individual? He will be disqualified under anti-defection law. But look how anti-defection law has been misused through this process of resignation. How? 22 MLAs belonging to the Congress, they resigned from their party. Why? Because they supported Jyotiraditya Scindia, who defected to the BJP. Jyotiraditya Scindia, he was neither a member of the parliament nor the member of the state legislature, but he decided to resign from his party and join the BJP. 22 MLAs close to Jyotiraditya Scindia, they resigned from their party. When they resign from their party, what happens to them? They will be disqualified under anti-defection law. But that's besides the point. Let's look at this picture. When we look at this picture, 22 Congress MLAs, they defect, they resign. Ultimately, the majority required for a political party to form the government also reduces. How? The 2 MLAs died, so the total strength remained 228. 22 MLAs, when they resign, the total number remains 206, which means a political party needs 104 MLAs to form the government. This is where BJP has the numbers. They were in a position to form the government, and today Shivraj Singh Chouhan proved majority on the floor of the Legislative Assembly in Bhopal. Which means the objective why anti-defection law was enacted in 1985, it is getting defeated day by day. The objective was, let's have political stability, let's have governmental stability wherever government is formed in the states. But it is through these resignations, ultimately there is instability in various state governments. How do we resolve this problem? It can be resolved. How? Anti-defection law needs to be amended. For that, what is it that we have to do? All those who resign before completing their term of 5 years, they should be barred from contesting the elections for 6 years. That means today, if I'm elected to a legislature, if I'm elected to the parliament, and I voluntarily resign from my party before completing my term, I should be barred from contesting the elections for 6 years, which means I will not be in a position to contest the next election. In 1985, it was thought that if a member of the parliament or a legislature will voluntarily resign from his party, he will be disqualified. That is why he won't resign and there will be stability in the governments. Now we have witnessed how even this route of resignations has been misused by the political parties, and anti-defection law remains a toothless tiger. To give it more teeth, we need to amend anti-defection law so that if a legislator resigns before completing his or her term, he should be barred from contesting the elections for 6 years, which means if you will not be in a position to contest the next election, you will think twice, thrice, umpteen times before resigning from your party. That is how we can strengthen anti-defection law. That is how we can strengthen people's faith in the electoral system. And that is going to be the biggest reform in anti-defection law. That is what you need to understand from this newspaper article. Now let's look at another news on page number 12. Lok Sabha passes finance bill without debate. If you look at union budget, it has basically two parts. One, expenditure. The other is revenue. For expenditure, we have appropriation bill. For revenue, we have the finance bill, which basically means appropriation bill talks about the demands for grants. That means, for example, the 54 central ministries and departments. How much are they expecting? How much are they demanding so that this money they want to spend in the next financial year? All those demands are mentioned in this appropriation bill. Finance bill talks about the revenue side of the budget. It talks about whether we need to change the existing tax slabs, whether new taxes are to be imposed. So the revenue side is taken care by this finance bill. First, the appropriation bill is passed and then the finance bill is passed. Once both these bills are passed, ultimately the process of budget is complete. Now, this finance bill has been passed without any debate, which ultimately means that the union budget has been cleared. But you need to understand, this finance bill is also a money bill. Don't confuse this finance bill with a financial bill. That financial bill comes under Article 117 of the Constitution of India. This finance bill is a money bill which is governed by Article 110 of the Constitution of India. Let's look at something else. The Lok Sabha has been adjourned sine die. What does that mean? This power to adjourn the House is given to a presiding officer. Normally, presiding officer adjourns the House, but specifying the date and time, which means the presiding officer may say that the Lok Sabha is adjourned. We are going to meet again on 25th March, Wednesday. Something like that at 10 o'clock in the morning. So the presiding officer adjourns the House but specifies at the same time when are we going to meet again. But when the House is adjourned sine die, it means no date, no time, no day has been specified when the members of the parliament are going to meet again. Which basically means when the House is adjourned sine die, it paves way for the President of India to prorogue the session of Indian Parliament. And when the session of the Indian Parliament is prorogued, the session ends. Adjournment is a power which is given to the presiding officer, but prorogation is the power that is given to the President of India. There is something called dissolution. When the Lok Sabha is to be dissolved, even this power is available with the President of India. But the President exercises these powers on the aid and advice of the Council of Ministers headed by the Prime Minister. That is what you need to understand from this newspaper article. Now let's look at another news on page number 14, international news. There is a political crisis in Afghanistan. Presidential elections were to be conducted. These presidential elections got delayed. Even when these elections were held, these elections were marred by violence. Not just violence, low turnout. And ultimately, even the declaration of results took a lot of time. And even when the results were declared, there were two claimants, Ashraf Ghani and Abdullah, both declared that we have won the election. And the irony and the hilarious part is, both held their swearing in ceremonies as well. Now what has happened? Secretary of State of United States, He was in Afghanistan to try and persuade both Ashraf Ghani and Abdullah to come to some sort of a compromise. In fact, this compromise took place in 2014 elections as well. And that compromise was brokered again by the United States. But this time it seems that both sides are adamant. US is asking both the parties to come together to form some sort of a unity government. But this time both these individuals are adamant, which leads to two things. Number one, if this deadlock is not resolved, which basically means that the Taliban peace deal may get affected. Why? In February, when United States and Taliban signed a peace deal, one of the provisions of that peace deal was that the Taliban prisoners should be freed. For freeing these Taliban prisoners, the government in Afghanistan is a party. That means the government of Afghanistan will have to free these Taliban prisoners. That is going to be affected if there is a clash between the two claimants to Afghan presidency. Second, if this deadlock is not resolved, experts say that United States will cut economic aid to Afghanistan. That is why we have to keep a track of these news developments in Afghanistan. Now let's look at some of the editorials and columns from today's newspaper. COVID-19. To save yourself from the virus, what is prescribed? Social distancing. Now this social distancing is a privilege. It means you live in a house large enough to practice it. Hand washing is another recommendation. Even this hand washing is a privilege too. It means you have access to running water. We're also prescribed hand sanitizers. Hand sanitizers are also a privilege. It means you have the money to buy them. Lockdown, Section 144, curfew, that's also a privilege. It means you can afford to be at home all these times and at the same time ensure that you're not going to be economically affected. The salary will be credited into your bank account. That means there are ways in which you can save yourself from this coronavirus. But all these ways are available and accessible only to the rich and the affluent sections of our society. This is where the irony is. In essence, this disease was spread by the rich and the affluent sections of our society who traveled around the globe, and now they are threatening to kill the millions of the poor throughout the world. Which means this COVID-19 is basically a coronavirus disease which was discovered in 2019. And because of this disease, people die. And at the same time, there is no treatment available yet. If we look at coronavirus outbreak in different parts of the world, thousands of the people have lost their lives. In India, the death toll is at present 10. Let's look at another figure. 8,000 children die every day because of another virus. And that virus is what we call hunger. And at the same time, we have the vaccine for this virus. And that vaccine is food. If we are fighting against coronavirus, we must at the same time not abandon our other deadly diseases. For that, let's look at these two beautiful columns and editorials in today's The Hindu newspaper. We need to understand that COVID-19, experts say, will lead to global recession. The world economy, experts say, will be much worse than it was during the 2008-2009 global economic crisis. Some even say that the economic situation may be similar to the Great Depression of 1929. How? Let's look at these important facts. International air travel. What happened? Banned. Second, domestic air travel. What happened? Banned. State borders, at least in India, have been closed. Number 4, non-essential sectors closed, which means who will be impacted? Number 1, travel industry will be impacted, airline industry will be impacted, automobile sector will be impacted. Why? Because who will buy cars and motorcycles in these testing times? At the same time, restaurants will be affected as people would avoid outside food even for a long time now. There are reports that 1/3 of all these restaurants will be shut down, will be closed, which means there will be loss of 20 lakh jobs. When an individual loses his job, his family also suffers. When family also suffers, which means consumption will drop. When consumption drops, which means demand also drops, which further means that factories, they will either cut their production or they will close down. In both the cases, whether factories cut their production or they close down, what will happen? The loans that these factories have taken, they will not be in a position to repay these loans to banks and financial institutions. That means they will default on their loan payments, which means non-performing assets, NPAs, will rise in the banking sector, which basically means another strain on banks. Banks won't be in a position to lend more freely because there is a limit to the amount of money that they can lend. More NPAs means less and less funds available for lending, which means infrastructural projects will come to a halt because of lack of funds. Long story short, it's going to be a period of economic turmoil. This is a gloomy picture, but this can be a reality too. Somehow we need to stop this. And how can we stop this? For that, we need COVID-19 economic recovery package for India. If we look at United Kingdom, they have an Indian origin finance minister. He has unveiled United Kingdom's biggest economic recovery package. United States, for example, it's finalizing $1 trillion economic recovery package. Germany is going ahead with unlimited government financing. Netherlands, France, Spain, Italy, they have also launched $500 billion recovery measures to strengthen their economy, to prevent their economy from falling down. And that is something we need in India as well. And what is it that we need? What is this economic package or recovery package for India? Number one, direct cash transfer. 3,000 rupees per month should be deposited into the bank accounts of households. But how many households? 12 crore households who are at the bottom of our economic pyramid. And this money should be provided for a period of 6 months. That means one thing that we need, direct cash transfer. 12 crore per households at the bottom of our economic pyramid, give them 3,000 rupees every month for a period of 6 months. What is going to be the cost of all this? 2.2 lakh crore. That's number one. Number two, we have Manrega, Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act. Expand Manrega. How can we expand Manrega? Public works, roads, hospitals, clinics can be asked to be created under this Manrega program. We have something else. We can link Manrega with Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana for the construction of roads. We have another program called Roads and Bridges Program. For Manrega, for Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana, for this Roads and Bridges Program, the government has allocated 1.5 lakh crore. So what is the prescription? Link all of these three together, increase the allocation, double it to 3 lakh crore. So that all these three things can lead to something called right to work. On one hand, we are providing economic benefit in terms of cash. At the same time, we are providing right to work for these individuals. And at the same time, we need food for the people. How can we have food? That's the third prescription. Food Corporation of India, it is overflowing with excess rice, wheat. Why can't we ensure that 10 kg of rice and wheat is made available to every Indian family free of cost per month? All these three prescriptions put together will be the biggest ever economic recovery package for India. And all this gloomy picture that we saw previously, all this gloomy picture will come to an end. And that is required. Otherwise, we will be in a situation, in a grave financial mess from which it will be very difficult for us to come out of. But you might ask that all of this requires 6 to 7 lakh crore rupees. Where is the money? We have the money. How? Number one, oil bonanza. What is this oil bonanza? The blessing is that there is a dramatic fall in the global crude oil prices. Now close to $20 a barrel. It might reach soon, which means for an importing country such as India, it's a blessing. And because of this oil bonanza, we can save 2 lakh crore rupees annually. That's number one way in which we can fund this economic recovery package. Number second, reallocate the resources because it's the time to prioritize now. For example, what we need to divert funds. How can we divert funds? For example, the government has allocated 40,000 crore rupees for the revival of public sector undertakings in the telecom sector. Clear? Let's put it on hold. It's unfortunate, but let's put it on hold. Divert these funds to this economic reconstruction package. Third way in which we can raise the resources and money to fund this economic package, we have 54 ministries, for example. These 54 ministries and the central departments, they have made a demand. In the union budget for the financial year 2021, we would need 30 lakh crore rupees. All these 54 ministries, they have demanded 30 lakh crore rupees in this financial year. Let's rationalize all this and save 2 to 3 lakh crore from this 30 lakh crore demand made by these ministries. And that is how we can generate 6 to 7 crore rupees to fund this economic reconstruction package. That is what you need to understand from this column and this editorial. Now let's look at another column. Former Chief Justice of India, Justice Ranjan Gogoi. Within few months of his retirement, he was nominated by the President of India to Rajya Sabha. Critics argued that Justice Ranjan Gogoi should not have accepted this offer, should not have accepted this nomination. Why? He was nominated by the President, who is the head of the executive, and this nomination is given to the former head of Indian judiciary. The biggest litigant before the judiciary is the executive, which means if the executive is showering some benefits on the judiciary, there is an element of give and take, which basically means maybe the head of the judiciary might have favored the executive when Justice Ranjan Gogoi was heading the Supreme Court of India. Critics argue that the way Ranjan Gogoi acted in Ayodhya case, in Rafale case, in Sabrimala case, in NRC case, in Jammu and Kashmir case, all the verdicts favored the government of the day, favored the executive of the day, and now executive has decided to shower its blessings on this individual. So many people argue that he should not have accepted this nomination by the President of India. Now contrast this to the treatment given to Justice Muralidhar. Justice Muralidhar, he was the judge of Delhi High Court. There were riots in Delhi. Petitions were filed in the Delhi High Court that there have been instances of hate speeches by various political leaders in Delhi. And that is what led to riots, communal riots in Delhi. So the petition argued that please take action against these hate speeches, order the filing of FIR against these political leaders who made these hate speeches. Justice Muralidhar not only heard this petition but made the police to hear these political hate speeches as well and asked the police how much time would you need to register FIR in these cases. And what happened? Justice Muralidhar was transferred to Punjab and Haryana High Court. Let's be fair to the government. His transfer from Delhi High Court to Punjab and Haryana High Court was cleared long back. But the notification affecting the transfer was issued at midnight. So critics argued that if there are judges who favor the executive, they are rewarded with nomination. And if there are judges who stand up to the executive, they are punished and they are transferred. What is the crux of this newspaper column? The crux is that judges need not fear anything. Why? Because the judges in India are one of the most powerful individuals in this country. How? Because they enjoy security of tenure. Why should judges toe the line of the executive, favor the executive? They should not fear the executive because they have nothing to fear, because they enjoy security of tenure. Once they are appointed, the judges of Supreme Court, they continue in their office till the age of 65. Judges of the High Court, they continue till the age of 62, and they can be removed only after a complicated parliamentary process wherein a resolution should be passed by both houses of the Indian Parliament by special majority. And such is the difficult nature of this removal process that till date, no judge of a high court, no judge of a Supreme Court has ever been removed from their offices, which basically means that these judges, they enjoy security of tenure. So why do they fear the executive? At the same time, their conduct cannot be discussed even inside the parliament. That means such is the power, privilege, prestige attached to this office that their conduct cannot be discussed even inside the parliament. So why should they fear the executive? And look at the last paragraph. The true stars of India's justice system are the thousands of judges who toil over dusty briefs. It is they who never make headlines and never seek it, but take a clear conscience and straight spine to their well earned rests. For their sake and for the sake of this nation, the time has come to induct a new generation of heroes. That is what you need to understand from this newspaper column. Now let's look at some of the practice questions, first for prelims and then for mains. Question number 1. With reference to the powers of Rajya Sabha, consider the following statements. It can authorize the parliament to make laws on a state subject, Article 249, correct. It cannot remove the Council of Ministers by passing a no confidence motion, correct. No confidence motion can be introduced only in Lok Sabha. Constitutional amendments can be introduced in Rajya Sabha as well, correct. The motion for the removal of vice president can originate in Rajya Sabha only, correct. Which of the above statements are correct? D, all of them. Google's Sekou Ma, frequently seen in the news, is related to quantum computing. Which of the following are biodiversity hotspots present in India? Himalayas, Western Ghats, Indo-Burma, Andaman Islands? No. So C, 1, 2, 3 is the correct answer. Question number 4. With reference to cultural history of India, the terms Gavaksh, Vyala, Yali are associated with elements of ornamentation in temple architecture. Question number 5. Consider the following pairs. Blossom shower, Kerala. Mango shower, Maharashtra. No. Nor'westers, Assam. Yes. Mango shower is in Karnataka as well as Kerala. So which of the above pairs are correctly matched? 1 and 3. C is the correct option. Mains based questions. Question number 1. Resignation is a new loophole for bypassing anti-defection law. Comment. Question number 2. Answer should be in less than 200 words. US Taliban deal puts the onus of ending the Afghanistan war on Asian forces. Elaborate. That is it from our newspaper analysis for today. Thank you for being with us. Have a great day.